I've decided to start a new life without you. The words sliced through the air like a knife. They weren't whispered in private, not said in the heat of an argument behind closed doors, but spoken loud and clear in the middle of an upscale restaurant. A place filled with family, friends, and 50 pairs of watchful eyes gathered to celebrate one thing: my daughter's college graduation. Gregory, my husband of 28 years, stood there with his champagne glass half raised, turning what should have been a proud toast to Amelia into the opening act of his betrayal. The clinking of silverware stopped. Conversations froze mid-sentence. Every head swiveled between Gregory and me, waiting for a reaction. They expected tears. They expected a scene, maybe even a dramatic exit with me storming out in humiliation. Instead, I smiled. A calm, deliberate smile. "Congratulations on your honesty," I said softly, my voice steady enough to echo across the hushed room. "My name is Bianca Caldwell. I'm 54 years old. And until this moment, I had been playing the role of the perfect wife and mother. I put my career dreams on hold for nearly 3 decades, sacrificing my ambitions to lift Gregory through his endless career changes, his 3 failed business ventures, and all those finding himself phases. Meanwhile, I raised our brilliant daughter Amelia, who sat beside me in that moment, still wearing her graduation cap, her young face frozen in horror. From the corner of my eye, I caught sight of Cassandra Wells, Gregory's mistress. She was much younger, beautiful in that polished, effortless way, but visibly uncomfortable as she sat at the back table among people I had called friends for decades. Friends who, judging by their silence, had known about the affair long before I did. Cassandra had been in our home, at our Christmas parties. She'd once called me for advice on her own career. And now here she was, smiling awkwardly while hiding behind her wine glass. With practiced calm, I reached into my handbag and pulled out a sealed cream-colored envelope. I placed it delicately beside Gregory's plate. His triumphant expression faltered. "What's this?" he asked, his voice laced with unease. "Something for you to read later," I replied, steady as stone. I turned to Amelia, my heart aching at her pale face, her wide eyes searching for answers. I kissed her cheek. "I am so proud of you, sweetheart. This day belongs to your achievement. Don't forget that." Then, smoothing my dress, I rose from my chair. I faced our stunned guests, people who once thought they knew me, thought they knew us. "Please enjoy your meal," I said with a serene smile. "I wish you all a lovely afternoon." And with that, I walked out of the restaurant, my head held high, my back straight. 50 pairs of eyes followed me in absolute silence as the heavy door shut behind me. The sweltering Augusta summer heat hit me like a wall, but I welcomed it. For the first time in years, I could actually breathe. Then I heard it, the door slamming open behind me, followed by Gregory's voice. Gone was the confident man who had made his grand announcement. Now his tone was high-pitched, frantic. "Bianca! What the hell is this? What have you done?" I didn't stop walking. I didn't look back. Instead, I allowed myself the smallest of smiles. Because the envelope I had handed him wasn't just paper, it was the first step in the revenge I had been planning for months. You see, I had always been the practical one in our marriage. While Gregory chased big dreams, I was the one keeping us afloat. I was the one who worked overtime when he recklessly quit his stable job to pursue 6 months of building handcrafted furniture. I was the one who quietly saved for Amelia's education when Gregory poured money into a friend's failing restaurant. Meanwhile, my own dream, opening a financial consultancy for women, was always pushed aside. After Amelia graduates, I told myself. After Gregory finds stability. But 3 months ago, I found something. Little cracks in the illusion of our marriage. Strange transfers from our joint account. Small at first, but noticeable. And after managing our family's finances for over 20 years, I knew exactly what those red flags meant. Gregory thought I was blind, but he had no idea I was wide awake, and I was already preparing for the storm. I could have confronted Gregory the very moment I uncovered the truth, but something inside me told me to wait. Maybe it was intuition, or maybe it was the quiet awareness that the man I had lived beside for nearly 3 decades had been slowly drifting away from me for over a year. So instead of exploding, I began to investigate, silently, methodically. And what I discovered was far darker than I imagined. Gregory hadn't just betrayed me emotionally, he had been stealing from us. For more than a year, he'd been siphoning money from our joint accounts into one I didn't recognize. He was taking Cassandra to fine restaurants, buying her jewelry, even touring beachfront properties as if they were shopping for their future together. All while he told me to tighten our belts for retirement. The final blow came when he left his phone unlocked one night. The messages were all there. Cassandra gushing about their new life, Gregory boasting about finally breaking free. They had even chosen their big day, the day after Amelia's graduation, the day he planned to humiliate me in front of everyone we loved. What Gregory never expected was that I wasn't the helpless, naive wife he thought I was. I'd been a financial professional for 30 years. I knew how to trace assets. I understood money trails better than anyone. And most importantly, I remembered the prenup. 28 years ago, Gregory had insisted on one, thinking he was protecting his own future earnings. Ironically, it included a fidelity clause, one that, in the event of adultery, stripped him of nearly everything, a clause that was still very much active. So while Gregory spent months planning his dramatic escape with Cassandra, I was busy planning my case. I met with attorneys. I documented every suspicious transfer. I collected evidence of their affair. I even drafted divorce papers, carefully timing it all so that his grand, fresh start would collapse beneath him. What he didn't know was that I had already served those papers the very morning of Amelia's graduation. They were sitting safely in court records, hidden from his sight. He thought he was 3 steps ahead. But in reality, I was the one leading this game. I didn't return to the restaurant that afternoon. Instead, I drove to our colonial-style home in Augusta's historic district, the place we'd bought 15 years ago. According to his texts, this house was already promised to Cassandra, as though it were his to give away. When I walked inside, everything looked the same. The family photos still lined the walls. The antique grandfather clock, once my father's, ticked softly in the hallway. The leather couch where Gregory and I used to dream about our future sat untouched, but everything had changed. The love I thought lived in those walls was gone. Upstairs in our bedroom, I opened the closet and found his clothes already packed in suitcases, hidden neatly in the back. His great escape was ready to unfold the next day. I couldn't help but smile. He was always so meticulous about the trivial things, his wardrobe, his image. But when it came to the things that truly mattered, Gregory was careless. That carelessness would be his undoing. My phone buzzed relentlessly. Friends from the restaurant, Amelia, even Gregory's sister Diana, who had flown in for the graduation. I ignored them all except my daughter. "I'm okay," I texted her. "This isn't your burden to carry. Enjoy your graduation day. We'll talk tonight." I love you, for months, I had shielded Amelia from the truth. I refused to let her final semester be tainted by her father's betrayal. She might be angry when she learned the full story, but in time, she would understand. She was strong. She had inherited both my practicality and Gregory's charisma, a powerful combination that had already carried her to honors graduation. 3 hours later, I heard the familiar sound of Gregory's car pulling into the driveway. The front door slammed open. "Bianca!" His voice bellowed through the house. "Where are you?" I was sitting calmly in the living room, reviewing documents on my laptop. When he stormed in, his face flushed with rage, I quietly closed it. In his hand, he clutched the envelope I'd left at the restaurant. "What the hell is this?" he shouted, waving the papers. "You served me with divorce papers. Today, of all days." I looked at him, my voice calm and sharp as glass. "I thought it aligned perfectly with your plans, Gregory." You wanted a new life. I'm simply helping facilitate the transition. You had no right, he barked. I had every right, I interrupted, my tone unwavering. Just like you had every right to choose Cassandra. We all make choices. His mouth curled into a smug grin. The prenup expired years ago. Any lawyer will tell you that I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. Actually, it didn't. Section 12 specifically states the fidelity clause remains valid for the duration of the marriage. Your lawyer should have explained that to you. Oh wait, you didn't consult one, did you? The color drained from his face. The prenup he had once demanded to protect himself was about to strip him of nearly everything. The house, the Savannah property, his share of our retirement accounts. His big public announcement had just become the most expensive decision of his life. You can't do this to me, Gregory muttered, collapsing onto the couch. You did this to yourself, I replied coldly. We built this life together. But you chose to end it. Not me. Just not in the way you planned. His phone buzzed in his pocket, over and over. Cassandra, no doubt panicking about why their plan had unraveled. He ignored it. You've always been calculating, Bianca, he sneered, his voice laced with bitterness. But this is ice cold. What about our history? 28 years together. Doesn't that mean anything to you? I studied him for a long moment. This was the man who had once held me through 2 miscarriages before Amelia was born. The man who had surprised me with a weekend in Charleston for our 10th anniversary. When had that man disappeared? Or had he always been this selfish, and I was too blinded by devotion to see it? Our history means everything to me, I answered truthfully. That's why your betrayal cut so deep. His face softened, just slightly. Then maybe we can fix this. I made a mistake. People make mistakes, I shook my head, my voice firm. This wasn't a mistake, Gregory. This was a calculated plan, a year in the making. You moved our money. You shopped for property with her. You plotted to humiliate me in front of our family. You're exaggerating, he snapped. Am I? I asked. Then I reached for my phone, opened the recording app, and pressed play. Gregory's own voice filled the room. After the graduation, I'll tell her it's over. A public setting is better. She won't make a scene in front of everyone. Then came Cassandra's voice. And she has no idea about the money. Gregory again. None. Bianca trusts me completely. That's her weakness. The blood drained from his face as he turned to me in shock. You recorded us? That's illegal, Gregory snapped, his face red with anger. Not in Georgia, Gregory. Not when one party consents, I replied calmly, and certainly not when it's in your own home. I didn't record your private moments with Cassandra. I'm not cruel. I only recorded the parts where you plotted to defraud me. That shut him up for a moment. But then he lurched to his feet, agitated. I need to make some calls. Of course, I said smoothly. Might I suggest starting with an attorney? I picked up my overnight bag from the chair. I'll be staying at Diana's tonight. His eyes widened. Diana's? My sister's house? I nodded. She's quite upset with you, actually. She was the one who first saw you with Cassandra last Christmas. She confronted you about it before she ever told me. You promised her it was nothing, swore you'd end it. When she realized you hadn't, she came straight to me. The shock in Gregory's face was almost comical. Another betrayal he hadn't anticipated. Everyone's betraying me, he muttered bitterly. Ironic, isn't it? I said, as I slung my purse over my shoulder. You have until tomorrow evening to remove your things from the house. After that, the locks will be changed. I was halfway to the door when his desperate voice stopped me. What about Amelia? Have you even thought about how this will affect her? That was the one line that shattered my composure. My calm cracked and anger surged through me. Don't you dare use our daughter as your shield, Gregory, I snapped. You weren't thinking about her when you were building your new beachfront life with Cassandra. His phone buzzed again. He finally glanced at it and groaned. Problem? I asked, arching a brow. He sighed. Cassandra's already at the apartment. She's moved her things in. I couldn't help but smile. The apartment you supposedly put in both your names? The lease you signed last month. He nodded cautiously, clearly uncertain where this was going. You might want to check with the leasing office, I said, my smile widening. That application was flagged for credit issues and never finalized. The leasing agent called our home phone to verify details. I answered. I handled it. And with that, I walked out, leaving Gregory in the ruins of his carefully orchestrated fantasy. His perfect new life with Cassandra was unraveling faster than he could catch up. Diana's home was a charming little bungalow across town, nestled near the university where she taught literature. When I arrived, she greeted me with a fierce hug. I just heard from Amelia, she whispered urgently, pulling me inside. Are you okay? I'm better than I expected, I admitted, following her into the kitchen where she had already opened a bottle of wine. I never thought Gregory would stoop this low, Diana said, pouring 2 glasses. The restaurant, in front of everyone. He's lost his damn mind. It was meant to humiliate me, I explained, accepting my glass. He wanted a public rejection, so I couldn't fight back without looking unhinged. Diana shook her head, her face tight with anger. My brother always did have a flair for drama, but this? This is something else entirely. We settled into her cozy sunroom, surrounded by her books and potted plants. For a fleeting second, I envied her freedom. Never married, never tied down to someone else's mess. What did you put in that envelope that rattled him so badly? She finally asked. I laid it out, the divorce filing, the proof of his financial deception, and most importantly, the prenup that would leave him with far less than he imagined. Diana smirked. The prenup? Oh, I remember when he insisted on that. Father had just given him money for that first doomed business, and he was terrified of losing it. The irony is delicious. Before I could respond, my phone rang. It was Amelia. Mom, she said immediately, her voice tight with emotion. I'm coming over to Aunt Diana's. Honey, you don't have to. I'm already on my way, she interrupted. Dad is telling everyone you've lost your mind, that you planned this for months. He's saying horrible things about you. Of course he was. Gregory always rewrote the story to paint himself as the victim. Let him talk, I said gently. The truth will reveal itself soon enough. 20 minutes later, Amelia arrived, still in her graduation dress. Her makeup was smudged from tears, but she collapsed into my arms like the little girl who used to crawl into my bed after a nightmare. Why didn't you tell me? She cried against my shoulder. I didn't want to ruin your final semester, I whispered. You worked too hard for this day. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. Well, Dad managed to ruin it anyway. We sat together in Diana's living room as I told her the whole story, how I had discovered the affair, the financial betrayals, and Gregory's elaborate plan. I knew something was off with him, Amelia admitted quietly. Always distracted, always on his phone. But I never imagined this. None of us want to see these things in the people we love, Diana said softly. Just then, my phone buzzed with a message from Philip Anderson, my attorney. The emergency filing had been approved. The accounts I flagged were now frozen, Gregory's access restricted to basic living expenses. The vacation properties, the savings, the money he thought he'd run away with. It was all out of his reach. I showed the message to Amelia and Diana. Good, Amelia said firmly. He deserves it. Her loyalty warmed me, but I wasn't naive. He's still your father, I reminded her. Your relationship with him is separate from what's happening between us. Amelia shook her head. Maybe someday. But not right now. He hugged me this morning, told me how proud he was, while secretly planning to destroy our family just hours later. I can't forgive that. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Diana went to answer it, then returned with a troubled expression. It's Gregory, she said slowly. And he's not alone. I steadied myself as she ushered them into the living room. Gregory stepped in, his face hard, and beside him stood Cassandra, shifting uncomfortably, her eyes darting nervously around the room. At 37, she was still young enough to think she'd won something, but tonight, her mask was beginning to slip. Not a trophy wife, no, but still 17 years younger than me. Cassandra stood there with her shoulder-length blonde hair, her polished smile, and that self-assured air that came from never having faced real hardship. By her side, Gregory looked furious. His earlier desperation had hardened into pure rage. "Bianca, you need to stop this madness," he barked, his voice sharp. "Unfreeze the accounts. We can discuss this like reasonable adults." Before I could answer, Amelia stepped forward, positioning herself slightly in front of me, like a protective shield. "Maybe you should have tried being reasonable," she said coldly, "before you decided to announce you were leaving Mom in the middle of my graduation celebration." Gregory's eyes widened, as if only now realizing his daughter was in the room. "Amelia, this doesn't involve you." "Doesn't involve me?" Her laugh was hollow, bitter. "You blew up our family on my graduation day, and you think it doesn't involve me?" Cassandra placed a tentative hand on Gregory's arm. "Greg, maybe we should go," she suggested softly, but Gregory shook her off, unwilling to retreat. "No, I'm not leaving until Bianca agrees to be rational about this." Diana crossed her arms tightly, her voice sharp as glass. "The only rational person here is my sister-in-law." "You're the one who made this mess, Gregory." I remained seated, calm, letting the scene unravel. For decades, I had been the peacemaker, the one who absorbed the storms, smoothed over arguments, and kept the family intact. That part of me had died the moment Gregory humiliated me in front of 50 people. I had no interest in stepping into that role again. 3 days?" Gregory sputtered, his face reddening. "What am I supposed to do for 3 days?" "You have your personal account," I reminded him, "the one you've been funneling money into all year." "That should be enough," Cassandra's head snapped toward him. "You have a separate account? With how much in it?" Her voice cracked with surprise, and I caught the flicker of betrayal on her face. Clearly, Gregory hadn't been as transparent with her as she thought. The cracks in their perfect little partnership were starting to show. Gregory ignored her question, choosing instead to glare at me. "This is vindictive, Bianca. This isn't who you are." "Maybe you never really knew me," I replied softly. "Just as I clearly never really knew you." Amelia's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Did you know?" she asked Cassandra directly, her eyes narrowing. "Did you know he was going to humiliate my mom like that? At my graduation?" Cassandra's confidence faltered. Her shoulders slumped. I thought he was going to tell her privately." "That announcement, it wasn't what we agreed." Gregory shot her a glare of pure disgust, as if she had betrayed him by speaking the truth aloud. Their united front was already crumbling. "I think it's time you both left," Diana said firmly, her voice carrying the weight of authority. "You've upset Amelia enough for one day." "Amelia," Gregory pleaded, desperate now. "You understand, don't you?" People change, relationships shift. Sometimes couples grow apart. My daughter's expression hardened in a way I'd never seen before. Her eyes, once so gentle when she looked at her father, were like stone. "What I understand," she said, her voice shaking with fury, "is that you're a coward. You couldn't even give Mom the dignity of a private conversation. What I understand is that you stole from us, while I was working 2 jobs just to afford my textbooks, because you claimed money was tight." Gregory paled, his jaw working, searching for a defense. "That's not how it was." "It's exactly how it was." Amelia cut him off, her voice trembling but strong. "Please leave, Dad." "I can't look at you right now." The silence that followed was suffocating. Finally, Gregory turned on his heel, Cassandra trailing behind him, her face flushed with shame. At the doorway, Gregory paused and looked back at me, his eyes full of venom. "This isn't over, Bianca. I'll fight you every step of the way." I met his gaze without flinching. "You're welcome to try." The door shut behind him, and Amelia collapsed onto the sofa beside me, her tears spilling freely. "I've never spoken to Dad like that before," she whispered, her voice breaking. I wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Sometimes standing up for what's right hurts," I murmured. Diana reappeared with fresh glasses of wine, lifting hers in a quiet toast. "To new beginnings," she said. I raised mine too, the weight of years lifting from my chest. "To new beginnings," I echoed. The preliminary hearing came quickly, on a gray, rain-soaked Tuesday morning. I walked into the courtroom with Philip, my attorney, calm but focused. Gregory entered moments later, with a lawyer who looked far too young for the job. A fresh associate from a corporate law firm, not family court. Another careless mistake. The judge, a stern woman with sharp eyes, wasted no time. She reviewed the prenuptial agreement with care. Her voice clipped as she read aloud. "This document appears to be valid. Do you contest its enforceability?" she asked Gregory's lawyer. The young attorney cleared his throat nervously. "Your Honor, we believe the agreement has expired due to the length of the marriage." The judge adjusted her glasses, unimpressed. "Section 18 states that it applies for the duration of the marriage, plus any proceedings resulting from its dissolution. No expiration date is noted." "It stands." Gregory leaned forward, whispering furiously to his lawyer, who was visibly uncomfortable. "And further," the judge continued, "evidence shows systematic transfers of funds that violate the financial disclosure requirements in Section 23. She shuffled the papers before setting them down decisively. "The freeze on joint accounts will remain in place pending full financial discovery." Mr. Caldwell's personal account remains accessible for basic living expenses. The family home remains in Mrs. Caldwell's possession under the infidelity clause of the prenuptial agreement. Gregory's face flushed an ugly shade of red as the reality of his crumbling empire sank in. For once, there was no dramatic speech, no smooth excuse, just silence. "This is outrageous," Gregory muttered, his voice low but sharp enough for me to hear. The judge's eyes snapped to him, her tone cold and uncompromising. "Mr. Caldwell, I suggest you review the agreement you signed more carefully. This court will reconvene in 30 days, once full discovery is complete." As the gavel struck, I rose, gathering my things. In the hallway, Gregory hurried after me, his face tight with desperation. "Bianca, please," he begged. "We need to talk about this reasonably. 28 years together has to count for something." I paused only long enough to meet his eyes. "It counted for everything," I said softly, "until you decided it didn't." Then I walked away, leaving him standing alone in the courthouse corridor, weighed down by the consequences he had created. Word of our split spread quickly through our social circle. Friends called daily, some offering comfort, others fishing for gossip. I offered nothing more than a polite, "Gregory and I are separating." These things happen, but behind the scenes, his carefully constructed facade was unraveling. The image he had clung to for years, that of the successful businessman and devoted family man, was crumbling. With the financial freeze in place, he couldn't keep the promises he had made to Cassandra. The beachfront property slipped through his fingers. The luxury car he had ordered was canceled. 2 weeks after the hearing, Diana called me, her voice tinged with amusement. "Have you heard?" Cassandra moved out. "Already?" I asked, though I wasn't surprised. "She discovered Gregory isn't quite the wealthy man he pretended to be. Apparently, she told her friend Jennifer she didn't sign up to date a man drowning in financial problems." I laughed, a deep, genuine laugh I hadn't felt in years. He always was good at creating illusions. While his world collapsed, mine was quietly rebuilding. The personal savings I had always maintained, separate from our joint accounts, gave me the freedom Gregory never imagined. I rented a small office downtown and finally launched the consultancy I had dreamed about for years. My first clients were women in the middle of divorces, lost and frightened the way I had once been. Word spread quickly, and more came. Soon, I was helping widows, women navigating career changes, women who simply needed to understand their financial lives better. For the first time in decades, I was not just useful, I was fulfilled. Amelia, now working at a marketing firm in Charleston, called me regularly. "I'm so proud of you, Mom," she told me one evening. "You're helping women during the hardest moments of their lives." "I'm just doing what I wish someone had done for me," I said, preparing women for whatever comes next. The work gave me a new kind of purpose, one that had nothing to do with caregiving or sacrifice, but everything to do with strength and independence. When the final divorce hearing came, on what would have been our 29th anniversary, it felt fitting, almost poetic. Gregory arrived looking tired and worn, the weight of his failures carved into his face. I later learned his business was struggling without my support, and Cassandra had already moved on to a wealthier man in Savannah. Even our friends, once charmed by his charisma, had distanced themselves after learning the truth of his betrayal. The judge upheld the prenuptial agreement in full. Gregory walked away with little more than his personal belongings, his faltering business, and what remained in his private account, barely enough to rent a small apartment after paying his lawyer. I, on the other hand, retained our home, my retirement accounts, and 70% of our joint investments. The justice was poetic. The very contract Gregory had demanded to protect himself became the weapon of his undoing. As we left the courtroom, he approached me one last time. His voice was quiet, stripped of arrogance. "I made a terrible mistake," he admitted. "Is there any chance we could—" "No," I said gently but firmly. "That door is closed." He swallowed hard, nodding. "I understand." "I hope you find happiness, Bianca. You deserve it. For the first time in years, I believed him. 6 months later, my consultancy, Caldwell Financial Transitions, was thriving. I had moved into a larger office, hired 2 associates, and built a reputation as a mentor and advocate for women navigating financial upheaval. Amelia visited often, brimming with pride. "You know what's ironic?" she said during one visit. "If Dad had just been honest, he might have walked away with half of everything." "Sometimes people can't see past what they want in the moment," I replied with a smile. The woman who had once defined herself as Gregory's wife and Amelia's mother had found a new identity: mentor, business owner, survivor. The envelope I handed Gregory at that restaurant had been more than a trap. It was the key to a door I never knew existed. And behind it, I found not just revenge, but reinvention.